Hey everybody, Will Hamilton here, and I'm sitting alongside Sam Sumyk, who is Victoria Azarenka's coach. Sam, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to talk, obviously, about tennis. We're going to talk about the Pro Tour, what it's like to be a pro coach, and of course we're going to talk about sort of some of the things, Sam, you've learned from your experience as a pro coach, how that can relate to recreational players. So I think to start, why don't you just give us a little quick background. Where are you from? How did you get started in coaching and so on?
Okay, so, well, I'm from France. I used to play a little bit, but just those French money tournament and stuff like that. I didn't play and never played a pretty high level, just a club level player. And I started teaching a long time ago. I started teaching like 25 years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's kind of that's been a while. Yeah. So basically when I just stopped school to start teaching tennis.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
That's what happened basically.
Okay. And did you immediately start at the pro level? Did you start at clubs and then you kind of got into it? What's the progression there?
No, where I started is I started to work for a club in France, a pretty important club,
okay. A good club.
Around my region, my city. And
where were you located, out of curiosity?
In northwest of France, in Brittany.
Okay, Brittany, sure.
So I worked there like 4 or 5 years, and obviously I had going from kids to adult, and teaching, the whole day pretty much. Mm-hmm. So that's how I started, but not on a professional level. Of course, we had a tennis school inside the club for the best kids and all these type of things. But obviously, in a tennis club, you have to take care about everybody. Any ages or men, women. Everybody.
Sure.
So. Well, we were teaching early morning and late evening because, after school or after work.
I remember exactly what that was like. Yeah.
So that's how I started, and then what happened is I decided to take a year off because I wanted to go visit what I believe was those tennis country. Basically countries that has. A lot of tennis history.
Okay.
So of course in England, of course. So basically USA. I wanted to go also see what were happening at that time in Sweden because they had like unbelievable players and men especially
at that
time.
Is this like Wielander and Borg, kind of that area?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to know what's going on over there, so basically, and then I planned my trip like this, my year off like this way. So I started in the United States, went to Palmer Tennis Academy in Florida, in Tampa, and I spent 2 months there. That was my first trip, okay? And I spent 2 months, and when it was time to leave, Mr. and Mrs. Palmer, who owned that place at that time, proposed me a job.
Oh, really? Okay.
So basically, that's what happened. I went back to France, I packed my stuff, I came back, and I started working for them, and then that's where I approached the professional level.
Oh, the professional level.
Yeah, that's the academy.
Okay, so you didn't even make it on the rest of your trip. It was just in the U.S. and then that was it. You're done.
After I've been to all those countries that I planned, originally to do it, but I went with players, So then that gave me a feel what was going on.
Did the trip take you to Australia, out of curiosity?
Not that year.
Okay. But the reason I say that is because Sam and I actually met at the Aussie Open.
Yes.
About 6 weeks ago, 2 months ago, something like that.
Yes.
About 5 or 6 days before the big win.
Yes.
So that was pretty cool. But okay, so you're in the States, and that's how you got to the pro level. And how did you start coaching Vika?
Well, I was how do you say? At that time, I was in France, and I just stopped working for the French Federation, and I'm hanging there in Paris, in France, and then I received a phone call from Vika saying that she was looking for a coach, wanted to work with me, and then I got her agent on the phone, and then that's it, done deal.
Oh, well, that was easy.
No, that was very easy, very simple. It took, I don't know, it took 2 days, and here we go.
Locked it up, huh?
Yeah, well, that was the end. That was what happened is that was, just kind of New Year's Eve, and well, it was time for her to go to Australia, and she has no coach at that time.
Yeah.
So obviously she wanted to be quick.
And when was this? Was this 2 months ago? Was this a year and a half ago? This was several years ago, right?
So it was January 2010.
Okay.
So if you put a couple of days before, really at the end of 2009, put it this way.
Okay.
But that's what happened basically.
Well, let's talk a little bit about coaching a professional player, because most of the people watching this, obviously either recreational players or coaches, and they kind of want a window into that world and how the players get themselves prepared to basically from the first ball on court play extremely well. So, what do you do? So we're out here at Indian Wells, and right now the matches are played every other day. So you have an off day. So on the off day, you know who you're going to play in the next round. You're going to have a longer practice session. What are you working on in the practice session? Are you specifically designing the practice geared towards the opponent you're about to play? If it's somebody with a big serve, are you really working on the return? Or if it's somebody who's very consistent, are you working on moving the ball around the court? I mean, how does it change? What's sort of the mindset coming in there?
It depends on what's really needed on that day. Like we never with Vika design a session based on her next opponent.
Okay.
It could happen that we add in the session a couple of things based on the opponent, but it's not the full session. Okay, because mainly what it is, the session is just all about her, to make her feel things better and good, obviously.
Okay.
So we're more focused on her and her game and her feels, and just for her to feel like, hey, I'm ready to go, and doesn't matter who is in front of me.
Okay.
So it might happen that, like I said, we do a couple of things, based on the next match, but it's very rare. It's mainly everything goes around her. Mainly.
So that's interesting. So it's a very sort of a feel-based approach, making sure that the confidence is there and you're striking the ball. And everybody knows this. When you're hitting well, you can feel it, and you know when you play well, you're maybe in the zone and the ball just feels great off your strings. That's kind of what you're getting after there, versus maybe saying, oh, we're playing, a particular player with just this big serve, and so we're only going to focus on the return there. It's very much more centered on Vika versus who's on the other end of the court.
Yes, that's most of the time what's happening. Yeah, I don't know. That's how we do it, and basically.
It's interesting because some of the other, like for example, in the past we've watched some other players. I remember a couple years ago, Federer was about to play Karlovic, and his entire warm-up was all just practicing returns. He just had somebody come up on the baseline and or the service line and just hit returns right at his backhand and try and groove that.
Yes.
So what it sounds like to me is that there's a lot of diversity on the Pro Tour among how people approach their practice sessions, and it's more based on the player and what the player, sort of just the personality of the player and what might be needed for them versus who might be on the other end of the court.
Yes, it's all about adaptation, basically.
Okay.
So this is the beauty of it. There is not only one method or one recipe. It's basically every day with your player, you have to adapt pretty much. Okay. But saying this, it might happen also to us that, I don't know, if her next opponent use a lot the kick serve on the outside, maybe I might do a little bit more of those. Okay. But obviously we're not going to do the whole training based on that.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. If for Vika, the most important is she needs to feel good about what she's doing before going out there. Okay. So obviously it's different for everybody.
For every player, sure.
Yeah. But for her, that's more what's working.
Very important point. Sign of a good coach right there is what you're saying, the adaptation, the flexibility, and understanding who your student is at that
Yes.
particular time, and then taking your knowledge and maybe communicating in a way or designing a practice session where it's going to make sense for that particular player. So you gotta adapt, you gotta adjust.
I think that's what it is. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very, very cool. Let's talk a little bit about the actual day of the match, because one thing I've noticed, we were talking the other day. There's a soccer field over there where all the players kind of go
Yes.
and warm up, and Vika was just sort of running circles around the soccer field. She was tossing a frisbee with somebody out there. How much because I think a lot of people watching this might think, well, my warm-up is going to warm up my strokes versus warm up my feet and my movement, and maybe get a good warm-up in where my entire body is loose. So how much kind of off-the-court stuff do you put in to make sure that the feet are quick, the entire body's loose, and so on?
So if we talk about a day of a match, basically, well, here it's pretty easy and simple because, well, we have a lot of space.
Yeah.
We have a gym, okay, so we can do a lot of work before actually walking on the court.
Okay.
Plus, we're lucky enough here that we have Vika's fitness trainer with us, Mike Guevara.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, that's a big plus because, well, he can follow up on everything and check everything. But saying this is the warm up. It includes a little bit of everything. It includes, of course, you want to, start properly the engine, if I can say like this. You know?
Yeah.
But there is also a little bit of core. There is a little bit of a maintenance, a little bit of a lightweight, a little bit of a footwork. If we feel or she feels she's a little bit maybe slow, we're gonna focus more on few exercises for better reactivity, better reaction from her. I mean, again, adaptation.
Adaptation. So you figure out the day of exactly what direction you want to take.
So you have
there.
main
core set of exercises that you do.
Exactly, and then you adapt based on what you need to adapt and what she needs on that day.
Okay.
But the whole thing takes pretty much about 45 minutes before we go on the court. Mm-hmm. Could be a little bit more, a little bit less, but that's what it takes basically.
But 45 minutes, I mean, that's a pretty long time to be warming up, where most recreational players walk out there and they might do this, do that, and then you're sort of ready to go.
Yes, I don't know, maybe some does, but she doesn't. But I say
I wouldn't think too many pros do that, but yeah.
I say 45 minutes, but obviously you understand that
sure.
it's not the amount of minutes that you put. It's just you do what is good for you.
What is necessary.
And obviously that's how she likes it, and she feels again ready to go. That's
Very cool. And if anybody's wondering why I keep checking my phone, I have a list of questions on here, so that's how I roll.
That's the prompter.
That's exactly. This is the teleprompter right here. So the one of the questions I want to ask, when you're in the box, when you're a player's box, the match going on, you obviously can't coach. You kind of have to sit there, and maybe it's sunny out, and you've got the glasses on, and you just sit there like this. So sometimes a match goes your way, and you don't, that cool, you're good to go. But sometimes it gets, you get down a break, maybe early in the first set, or maybe you lose the first and you're down a break in the second set. So is there any preparation in terms of scenarios that you might be facing during a match that you kind of talk about ahead of time to sort of have that plan if you get down a break, or if you get in a sort of an anticipated situation?
You could do it, but we don't.
Okay, you don't.
I never. How do you say? This is what I. Again, it's that's the way we do it with Vika.
But that's what's then. And excuse me for interrupting. That's what's the most interesting, is everybody has a different approach. I mean, I think that's great to hear.
Yes. So what I do is that I try to prepare something, obviously, before each match.
Yep.
I come up with some stuff, okay, based on her game and the opponent she's gonna eventually face, okay, and I try to put in my notes that I'm gonna give her before the match. I try to put, like you said, different case scenario, but when I tell her and I explain to her, I don't say it that way.
Sure.
So basically, I don't how do you say, come up and say, oh, if this is happening, or if this is going there,
Yeah.
do this, do that, because well, if I do that to Vika, I'm
It's
gonna
too much
put
almost.
like
Too much to think about. Yeah.
well, too much to think about, but you kind of like make problem before they really exist, you know.
Yeah.
You
That's a good point. Yeah, you're planning that. Yeah.
exactly. So that's something I don't want to do. But I don't want to do that with her or any other player I previously coached or whatever. If how do you say? But I'm trying to bring, at least for the beginning of the match, because everything again is adaptable and changeable. So the first, I don't know, a few games of the match, well, you come up with your game plan. If that doesn't work, in my notes, what I gave her, there is maybe other stuff she can try.
Okay.
And except go on and go on and go on like this. But I never said, oh, if I don't know, you're done match point, match point, do this, do that. No. That, I don't say anything, because I don't want to bring up or come up with some problems that I don't even know myself if
it'll be there.
It will be there. So there is no point really to talk about that. But that's what I.
But I think what you're getting at is something I've noticed at all levels of play, and I think this is really interesting point. I think it's a really key point. Is basically what you're talking about here is making sure that your player is in the right frame of mind and is in the right mental state and isn't overthinking. Kind of has their, the player has like the specific thing they're going to go out there and do. They're going to play their game, and you see it with things like. For example, all players have very specific routines in between points where they bounce the ball a certain way and everything. And that's to get them to reset their frame of mind, to get them back calm, collected, ready to execute the next point. So, very valuable here, whether you're a coach or a player, is you can very much, if you're a player, there can be too much thought going in ahead of time. You want to make sure you're kind of, you got your game and you're going to go out there and do it. And if you're a coach, you have to make sure when you're dealing with the player, you got to communicate in a way where there isn't that information overload, or you get them thinking about something that is not, might not happen, like you're saying, or isn't productive and isn't going to lead to success on the court.
Yeah, you don't want to make problems where there is no problem. Yet, at least yet, When what's the tools you want to give? It's basically option, possibilities, solution, if you want to call it this way. You give that to the players, so they've hopefully know what to do facing those type of situations. Because at the end of the day, the player is alone with her or his racket in his hand, and obviously facing adversity. Sometimes the crowd against you, whatever it is. Okay, but you're alone. So the best I can do is to give as many tools I can during practice and training and talking and blah blah blah. But then on the court, the player has to remember all this and eventually use some. But you don't want to bring problem, put problem on the table if there is no problem.
So hopefully this analogy works. As a coach, you've got, you create this tool bag for your player, and you're putting all these tools in the bag. And then you're closing up the bag and giving it to the player, and the player walks out, and then ideally, based on the situation, the player will go into that tool bag and pull out the right tool. But what you don't want to do is pull out the tools ahead of time and say, here are a couple that you should try and use in case this happens.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it's up to the player to figure out, based on all your coaching, they have this reservoir of knowledge.
Yes.
They can go get it.
I don't want to bring any confusion before anything started.
Okay.
But I rather see my player, this is the problem I'm facing right now. Okay, what's in my hand? What can I do to, cope the best I can with the problem I'm facing? So hopefully she finds the right solution, the right answer. But hey, if you don't, well, then that wasn't the correct one.
Then after the match, you figure it out.
Well, you always talk about those things after the match, so that can only be better in the next one. You know, but that's basically a little bit how we approach things.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's an excellent piece of advice right there. So I would highly recommend rewinding and watching again if you were getting a cup of coffee or something during this segment. But speaking of an in-match adjustment, let's talk about the Aussie Open final.
Yes.
because early in the match it was tight. I believe, if memory serves, Vika had a tough service game.
The first game.
Okay, was it the first game?
I think so, yeah.
And a couple break points against, and then she ended up holding, and then after that it was just kind of a steamroller. So what's your sort of take on, was that just a situation where it took a little time to get mentally right, and then after that she played her game and it was just too much?
I don't know. It's hard to say. You're suddenly on a big stage. Okay,
Yeah.
there is a lot. How do you say? There is a lot. Is that in the plate? I don't know if
Yeah,
it's
there's
that.
a lot on your plate. Exactly.
A lot in your plate.
Yeah, everybody else.
So basically, you have Maria Sharapova, who is obviously a little bit more experienced about that than Vika. But the fact is, I don't know. I wasn't really worried about these two games that she lost because Vika made the mistake, if I can say like this.
I understand what you're saying.
I didn't see Maria being right away winning the point because she was on top of Vika.
Yeah.
It's just Vika who did a couple of double fault, missed one backhand, cross court, something like that. But then the game was still juice.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really worried about it, to tell you the truth. But just because that was my feeling at that moment, and I thought that, that's the story of the beginning of the match.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes after. But I wasn't imagining at that time also that the after will be that good.
Well, another great point as well is when you're playing a match, I think a lot of people are just saying, "Oh, I'm losing" or "I'm winning," and they're not really thinking, "Why am I losing? Why am I winning? Am I losing because I'm making a lot of unforced errors?" If that's the case, that's good in the sense that if you clean up your mistakes a little bit, then you're probably going to, it's in your hands, versus is this other player taking it to me, blowing me off the court? Then it's a little bit more of a problem because it's not necessarily extremely obvious what you need to do. That's where you might have to go into that tool bag and figure out what tool you need to pull out. The tool you need if you're making a lot of mistakes is simple: stop missing. Be a little bit more conservative, whatever you need to do.
I don't know, but definitely you have to think about making your opponent work a little bit harder than that.
Sure. You gotta make them beat you, don't beat yourself.
Yes. So.
All right. So I got one more question. You said at the top of this interview that you worked on sort of the recreational player side with players of all levels, and then of course now you're working with the best players in the world. So what can you take from your experience working with Vika and working with others, and what do you think translates to people that are recreational players that play on the weekends? Is there anything specific? We've talked about a couple of them, sort of the mental side of things and the preparation. Is there anything else you think that stands out for a junior or for a high school kid or a rec player who's 35?
Yeah.
You think that?
I don't know, but I don't know. The way I feel about it is basically we all have, doesn't matter their level or age, we all have the same issues and problem on a tennis court. You can be a top 10, you can be a club player like I was. I don't know. I just see that we have the same issues. It's just a little bit on the different scale.
Okay.
The thing is, I don't know. We're all nervous sometimes. We're all excited after a big point, and how do we manage to play the next one? Blah blah blah. These type of whole things. We all have a day where my backhand doesn't feel good. We got to find a way. I mean, the problem you have at the top level, you have very similar problem club level. Mm-hmm. There's nothing really new or different. This is my feeling. Yeah. It's just that, if how can I say? With my player, I have to find solution.
It's the
right
thing
away.
I find really interesting about your coaching philosophy, and obviously there's a ton of technique and everything that goes into it, but right now we're not talking about that. I mean, when you say that the problems at the pro level are the same as the problems at the rec level, the examples you gave where people are nervous or people get exhilarated by hitting a great shot. I mean, it's very much we deal with the same emotions, and we have to know how to cope cope
No,
with them.
exactly the same. You can go, I don't know, you can play a match during the weekend at a tournament in your city, and hey, Saturday morning it's tough. I'm a little bit tired, you know, all my week and stuff. Hey, same for a professional.
Sure.
It's just, I mean, but the difference is, well, that's what they do all day long. So they have their main time is to find solution, work on it, fix problem, etc., etc. Something that maybe, well, we have you know, if we're a club player, we have a daily job.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. You can't always work on the, you know, keeping that focus and staying level.
but you feel the same. Sometimes, you know, you play. In your club, even a recreational match with a friend, and you're up 5-2, you lose the set. Well, you see the same thing out there. Seriously.
Yeah, so, the emotions will be the same.
So there is a lot of similarity. Don't think that how do you say it? It's a completely different game. We're talking about a different game. I don't think it is.
So if you've ever been up 5-2 and ended up losing the set, if you remember what that feels like, you know exactly what it feels like to be a pro in that situation.
Well, exactly.
It's the same feeling.
First round here, Vika was up 5-1 in the second set against Bartel, and ended up to lose the set.
Yeah, lost that and then pulled it out in a tight third set.
Yes, she did.
Very tight,
well, it happens to everyone.
Yeah, you gotta. Yeah, it's just got to get it done.
So, you know, nothing new and nothing really different out there, you know.
Well, great, Sam. This was awesome. This is a ton of really valuable stuff. I really enjoyed this. Learned a lot.
My pleasure.
Hopefully we can do it again.
My pleasure.
Good luck. Good luck with the rest of the tournament and
thank you.
2012, of course, as well.
Thank you.